bright and early this Thursday, February the 22nd. Welcome to your favorite breakfast show, The Morning Brief. I'm Kaido Kikilo from here in Lagos. I'm alone, by the way. Am I?
Yes, you are.
There was that silence and I was wondering, I'm not alone. What's going on?
Well, a bright morning to you. How are you? We must commend you, even as we commend ourselves. You've held on this far. We commend your courage, knowing full well that courage is not the absence of fear. Indeed, it is a judgment that there is something more important than fear, and it is to hold on and leave a legacy. Welcome to The Morning Brief on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka. Jeffrey.
And whatever you do, try and stay happy and alive. That's my only simple message this morning. So yeah, I'll continue to say that because I say it because it is a responsibility. It's your duty. It's something you can take charge of as an individual because a lot will happen around you that will shake you. Hakari used to tell me, maintain your inner equilibrium. So I don't know what that means, but I understood what that means. Welcome to the show. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
You know, we're going to be cracking some of those major issues. They're very knotty on both levels, and I'm talking about the fuel situation. You're probably at the fuel station trying to buy petrol. Maybe there's even no hope, and you are maybe tens of cars behind on the queue. We're cracking that situation for you on the show this morning. There's some drama as well going on around, so stay with us right here. It is The Morning Brief. So what do we have for you? As I said, the fuel queues are getting longer in some parts of the country, and you know what? It doesn't quite make sense because the National or the Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners have called off that strike, and they said, well, we're going to continue loading petroleum products. So what exactly is going on? Why are we seeing fuel queues across the country for an oil-producing country? Well, we'll find out what exactly is the cause of a scarcity making rounds this morning.
Indeed, Kade, we don't understand that, but what we understand is that we can manage the situation. However long the queues are, please let's not shunt and begin to funnel, at the front and then cause chaos. Let's be civil even as we try to purchase fuel. We'll all get by somehow, but eventually we will. Away from that, the leader of what could have well been Nigeria's ruling party was arrested in the most unceremonious manner in Edo State. And that was barely days to the party's primaries. Describing him as factional chairman, the police say he was arrested for attempted murder, illegal possession of firearms, and related offenses.
Well, that is not all on the program. February may be Black History Month, but every day is a day of excellence for Black people. I'll meet one of the women rewriting, or should I say, re-illustrating history with our cartoons, becoming the first African woman to have a syndicated comic strip. You want to find that out right here on the show.
Absolutely. So it's a mix of, all that you need, the right information, getting answers to those questions on your mind about the situation on the economy, the fuel queues, the politics, and of course, the softer side. I want to say it doesn't get better than this, but let me just be modest and ask you to stay right here with us on The Morning Brief. We stretch our hand of fellowship to you as always, so you can do this on social media, across the board, hashtag CTV Morning Brief, or just go over to WhatsApp. It's literally the easiest way to do things right now. We have our grandpas, our grandmas, our aunts, and our uncles on WhatsApp right now. So that's the number for you on the screen. Send us your messages, your questions, comments, and videos. Are you at that fuel queue? Send us a video. Let's know what is going on. Is there some funny thing happening where you're at? Hey, send those videos over and let's give your thoughts on your videos some much traction.
I think I totally agree with you on the videos for fuel queues. So wherever you are, you're at a fuel station, you're in a long queue, you're trying to purchase, please just send us a video. Do a short video, maybe 30 seconds or less. Send it to us. Just like yesterday, we were talking about languages and we played those videos. So when we have that conversation about fuel scarcity, we can also posit it where you are and amplify your voices wherever you are sending those videos from so that the authorities can at least get to work.
And Jeffrey, suffice it to add that you might want to also keep an eye on the price pump display. Let's know what the price is looking like, because the association has assured that the resumption of duty would not mean an increase in the pump price of petrol. But is that really the case? Because some agreements were reached, and the implication of that is that some monies have been readjusted. So let's know what the price is looking at.
I think where Butcher Coyotes was readjusted, though I was more interested in buying the field than knowing the amount. I think when I looked, like, is this 650 I'm seeing there? Okay. I'm serious, but I was more interested in just filling my tank and the jerry can I was with for my generator. So when I look, like, is this 650 or is it? Actually, it was 650.
It was 650
for real.
There you go. Send us those videos. Let's have them. We're back in just a few seconds with the top stories of the day. Your guess is as good as mine. Some of these stories will make the top stories, and that's in a moment. Stay with us on the Morning Brief. Let's begin with your top stories on the brief this morning, and it's a plea coming from former head of state General Yakubu Gowon to Nigerians to give the president some time, as he said that he believes the administration is doing its best to address the various problems facing the country. He was speaking at the State House after meeting with President Bola Tinubu in what he said is their very first meeting since the president's inauguration. The former head of state said they also discussed some of President Tinubu's plans to resolve some of the issues confronting the economic community of West African states, of which he's a founding father.
Being the surviving a leader or founding fathers of the ECOWAS, I think we had to discuss some of his plan in order to see what can be done to bring the matter under control. So this is what has brought me here, and we had a very interesting meeting. The government is trying their best to deal with the various problems of the country, but with Nigerians, don't you worry, you can get criticized. I think people out there, they know better than what you know there. But I think all that one can say is that we've got to Nigerians have to give the president time to get things really done, and it is too early to sort of say yes, that absolute result, perfect result would be achieved now. So that is my opinion. At least I know. I think if I remembered, I was told that I was fighting the war. I was too slow, and probably Nigeria cannot make it, and that we should not seek for discussion, and well, did we do it or not? They probably do not know the problem in there on the ground.
Former head of state General Yakubu Gowon speaking there. Meanwhile, it will seem another plea, this time by the DSS, may have fallen on deaf ears, as the Nigeria Labour Congress, the NLC, says it will not be blackmailed into shelving its planned protest against the high cost of living, deepening poverty, and the value of the naira. The NLC president, Joe Ajero, in a statement said he was concerned by what he called the unsolicited advice of the Department of State Services, DSS, to shelve the planned protest scheduled for February 27th and 28th. The DSS, in a statement by its spokesperson, Mr. Peter Afunaya, had urged the body to shelve the plan in the interest of peace and public order, citing intelligence reports that some elements are planning to use the opportunity of the protest to foment crisis. And over to the National Assembly, a failed agreement that would have seen local manufacturers produce prepaid meters, that's electricity meters, for users across the nation, has become the subject of another probe by the Senate. And also to be investigated by the lawmakers is a 2 trillion naira subsidy, which the Minister of Power says will be required to avoid a repeat of the fuel subsidy scenario still bedeviling the nation's economy. But these resolutions were part of a motion of public importance by Senator representing Adamawa Central, Senator Aminu Abbas.
Why should people be paying for what they did not use? They give people estimated bills. That is where we should focus. And focus on generation and transmission, not increasing the tariffs.
The removal of any subsidy, not to talk of electricity subsidy will be more than adding petrol to fire.
Call on the federal government of Nigeria to stand down the increase in electricity, the idea of increase in electricity tariff, and then the Committee on Power to investigate the over 2 trillion naira subsidy requirements as stated by the Minister of Power to avoid the repeat of fuel subsidy scenario. Those who are in support of the amended prayer say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have.
And now to party politics. In what could possibly be the very first time the national chairman of a party will be arrested, at least in recent times, the leader of Labour Party, Mr. Julius Abure, has been taken into police custody in Benin City, the Edo State capital. Mr. Abure was said to have gone for a scheduled security briefing with the Department of State Service, DSS, but was arrested after that alongside other party members. And as to why he was arrested, police spokesperson of the Zone 5 headquarters, Tijani Momo, attributes it to a written petition alleging attempted murder, conspiracy, grievous harm, and other related offences. But he added that Mr. Abure's supporters had sought to prevent his arrest, and this led to him being told to sit on the ground. Meanwhile, the national secretary of the party, Mr. Omar Farouk, who was seen at the Zone 5 headquarters yesterday, stated that he and some other top party members came in from Abuja following the arrest of their chairman, something they are not taking, of course. Take a listen.
I've just arrived from Abuja, and when I came in, I learned that our national chairman has been arrested, and as such as we came to the post headquarters to find out the reason for his arrest, and we are waiting to get clearance. I'm here alongside with some distinguished senators and some of my colleagues that are here, the NWC members. As soon as we get information, I will call the press to brief them the reason why our chairman is being arrested.
Now, more political drama from Edo State as the All Progressives Congress APC has announced Governor Basir II of Cross River State as the new chair of the revised primary committee in place of the Imo State Governor, Hope Uzodimma. Meanwhile, the president has directed that the contest be thrown open for all aspirants and ruled out any zoning arrangement. At least, the president was quoted to have said that by former governor of Edo State and senator representing Edo North, Adams Oshiomhole, during an interview with State House correspondent after meeting with the president at the presidential villa Abuja.
There have been rumors in the air that there's probably zoning to one area or zoning to another area. The president said, as far as it's concerned, it's committed only to free and fair primaries, not based on zoning. Because you don't do zoning at the eve of a primary. If they're going to be zoning, those involved in the decision, we have to be so comprehensive that the people of the state, understand it. Number two, if you are zoning, you will not allow people who are not from the particular zone to procure forms. Now, the National Secretariat of the party is on record as having issued a statement which was widely used to the effect that the APC governorship ticket was open to anyone who is eligible to procure the nomination form, which was why at the end of the day, we have 12 candidates that procured the form. So the key issue in my conversation with Mr. President is that the primaries that had been rescheduled for tomorrow to continue is not based on, and will not be based on zoning. It will be based on free and fair primaries. I am not a product of zoning. I am not a believer in turn-by-turn democracy. I believe Nigeria will do better when it puts its best foot forward. But the important thing is that I have the authority of the president, and you can cross-check. I told him, can I announce what I discussed, namely whether or not tomorrow's run-up election is based on zoning? And he said, no zoning. It's merit and fairness.
Well, elsewhere, EFCC operatives have continued their raid on currency dealers, this time in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, resulting in the arrest of some persons. It was gathered that the EFCC was supported by other security agents during that raid. A similar raid is also said to have been conducted in Enugu, the Enugu state capital, by the Anti-Corruption Agency, and even reports from here in Lagos in Bagada. Meanwhile, Bureau de Change operators in Abuja have described the raid as a welcome development, and they promise to work with the government task force to stabilize the foreign exchange market. Well, on to general security. Troops of the Nigerian Army conducting deep clearance operations into Yadi Forest in Kaduna State have clamped down on terrorists hibernating in the remote forest general area. A statement by the Director of Army Public Relations, Major General Onyema Wachiku, explains that during the operation, troops encountered an ambush staged by the terrorists, but swiftly neutralized one of them, while others fled. In the encounter, the troops recovered 2 AK-47 rifles, 6 AK-47 magazines, and other weapons. Well, some sharing news, it will seem, for millions of vulnerable Nigerians amidst the economic challenges, as the federal government has announced plans to restart direct cash transfers. Currently, about 3 million people are recipients of these programs, but due to the escalating cost of living, the government anticipates an additional 12 million households could qualify for these direct payments. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister for the Economy, Mr. Wale Edu, made this known during the Ministers' Retreat held in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital. Well, outside Nigeria and the U.S., the Biden administration has announced it is canceling $1.2 billion of student debt for 153,000 American borrowers. So it looks like the subsidy is going across the country. The Supreme Court had previously blocked President Joe Biden's plan to cancel student debt for over 14 million Americans. And the U.S. has $1.77 trillion in student debt. An average federal student loan debt per person is over $37,000. And to sports news, Nigeria's striker and African Footballer of the Year, Victor Osimhen, salvaged a draw for Napoli in his first club appearance since December as they held Barcelona in the Champions League last 16 first leg. Robert Lewandowski had handed Barca the lead in the 60th minute in Italy when he arrowed an effort into the bottom corner from the edge of the area. But the hosts eventually found a way back when Osimhen slipped past his marker in the box before rifling past Marc-Andre ter Stegen to level. Well, those are your top stories. Good to see Osimhen back to scoring ways. Those are the top stories at this hour. They will shape the conversation today and perhaps for the coming days. But let's take a look at what you are saying on the show this morning. That's across all the social media platforms. And hey, I'm not going to be doing this alone as we walk through all of the top stories. Bukola joins me. Hi,
yes,
Bukola.
Indeed, Kade. You know, some trends refuse to go away, and
right.
You know, rightly so, for good reason, because of the important nature of the subjects. For instance, the Naira.
Yeah.
A lot of Nigerians are still talking about it. Speaking of which, let's start with what Wendell is saying this morning about the Naira. The Naira, allowing Naira MasterCard to run international transactions. That at least can reduce the monopoly with which the BDC operates in the absence of a working or structural regulatory body. Let the bank at least decide what the FX rate is. At least to a degree, the banks are regulated. So there's been a lot of talk, that perhaps if we allowed all transactions, for foreign exchange be done electronically, then it will eliminate corruption, and then, the regulators would know those who are indeed involved in round tripping. So that's the tempo of the discussion currently as far as the Naira is concerned.
I know there's been that.
Go ahead.
Pardon me. There's been that conversation around some crypto apps, whether they're banned or not, and all of that. So all of this is in the mix. So take a look at what Mary Faye Matthew says, that at this point, we need to all support Tinubu because it's our country and our Naira. Instead of wishing him bad, I think we should all support the president and the country's progress like we all supported the Super Eagles. Yeah,
we need some positive energy right now at this point in time. Gilbert Alabi Diche, I hope, says clamp down on speculators is not the only solution. Pump more dollars into the system by selling more of our products abroad, plus put a 1-year moratorium on unnecessary foreign trips to conserve scarce foreign exchange. That's Gilbert's thoughts this morning.
I know there's a lot about this, which we'll get into on the show, but trending alongside the Naira is the word hunger. Yes. Hunger has also been trending. Not the first time it's trended in recent days, but for another day, as you said, these things are there. So this is what Nigerians are saying about hunger. And we'll begin with this one from Mukhtar Zubi on X. That's the handle on X. It says over 15 million people in Nigeria are undernourished, struggling to obtain enough food to meet their daily needs. Hunger leads to malnutrition, which affects an individual's physical and mental development, reducing their ability to live a productive life. So this speaks to the fact that the measures by government, they need to be targeted. It's good to see that cash transfer now spreading to, 15 million Nigerians. So maybe this will cover that.
Speaking of which, it was cheery to note that government said they will be resuming the distribution of cash transfer yesterday. But a senator is proposing that rather than the distribution of cash, that we should have a food stamp program. So how would that work? How will it be acceptable, by members of the National Assembly? Of course, we'll see in the coming days. He's giving assurances that a lot of his colleagues are supporting him on this one. Source Guy says, it's better to voice out than to die in hunger. Whether you patronize a group of tribe or not, inflation day everywhere. That's just to say that inflation is everywhere. And purchasing power is down to zero. Also, salaries aren't increasing.
Indeed. Ezra Christian has this to say. You may have seen some images and videos of people who are said to have, fallen down as a result of hunger. And he says it's heartbreaking to hear about situations where people are suffering from acute hunger. Offering food to someone in need is a compassionate act that can make a significant difference in their well-being. So this is us encouraging all of us to look out for ourselves and be our brothers, sisters, neighbors, keepers.
At this point in time, maybe, a child's father, if you perhaps find a child on the road who looks hungry. Larexy says, there is hunger in the land. No work, no money, no food. May God intervene. Amen.
There you go. But that's not all that is making the rounds. Politics is also big, particularly Edo State politics. Edo State politics is not for the faint-hearted. Yesterday, we saw the arrest of Labour Party national chairman. Interestingly, the police described him as a factional chairman of the Labour Party, Mr. Julius Abure. So this is what you're saying about that. You see, Rightful Hair on X saying Abure should just have honorably resigned. He seems to have become a blight on the Labour Party and the obedient movement. This is not to say he's guilty of whatever is being leveled against him, but he has moral obligations to remove himself honorably before more damages are done. Well,
we'll wait to find out the outcome of police's investigation, but suffice it to say that, the allegations against him are not new. They've been coming before this time. Ashiwaju of Lagos says, whatever allegations have been leveled against him must be thoroughly investigated, and if he's guilty, must be made to face the law. That's Ashiwaju's comment this morning.
Absolutely. So you're saying a lot about this. So let's strike the iron while it is hot, as they say, and get more on the situation concerning the Labour Party chairman, Mr. Julius Abure. What exactly played out? What is the situation right now after that arrest? And we are joined on the morning brief right now by Mr. Abure, who is the National Publicity Secretary of the Labour Party. Joins us virtually on the show this morning. Good morning, Mr. Ifo. Thank you for joining us on the morning brief. Let me just start by asking, where is Mr. Abure as we speak right now? Is he still in police custody? Has there been any sort of resolution as to his arrest?
Good morning, my colleagues in the studio. Good morning to Nigerians. To answer your question straight away, Julius Abure is in his hotel room here in Benin City. It is true that he was arrested, brutalized yesterday by a combined team of police and DSS. But he was released also last night along with the other 4 members of our parties that were arrested with him. That is the situation as we speak.
Now, the allegations leveled against him are quite weighty, and I'm sure you've heard the police speak to those allegations of attempted murder, conspiracy, grievous harm, and other related offences. Is this related to what we saw play out earlier, the attacks on some Labour Party members who were in Edo State? Because these are very weighty allegations leveled against Mr. Abure, and this is not the first time we've seen allegations of perjury, forgery as well leveled against him.
Now, there's this saying that whoever alleges will need to prove. The allegation that Julius Abure was in any way involved in manhandling of the former national youth leader has to be proved, because Julius Abure was not in anywhere near the scene, was not anywhere near the whatever thing that happened. Mr. Anselm was a victim of his own past. He was carrying out a program that he ought not to, and knowing that Edo State is a state of Labour Party, controlled by Labour Party, by the obedient, so he went to a terrain, and people out there he may have come in contact with one way or the other, passed on him. And that initially they were pointing at one of the party aspirants. Later they said is the national chairman. They were just fishing in the wrong waters. So Abure has nothing whatsoever to do with the fate that fell on the young man, and that is just the truth. And however, as you can see, I've rightly said, there have been a lot of issues coming up, from one problem to the other, one allegation to the other. And there have been several investigations. None, not even one, has Abure been found guilty. So you don't put a guilty stamp on someone that you have not been able to prove, beyond every reasonable doubt. So Abure has not committed any offense. This is what is playing out is purely politics. Politics, like I did say the other day, Labour Party is in the worst state of siege. I don't know what is in Labour Party that everybody wants it dead. What you are seeing now is resonating because of what is coming up in a few days' time. I'm sure you are aware that Labour Party just had this delegate election 2 days ago, very successful. And tomorrow, being Friday, we are going to do our party primaries to elect our candidate for the November election. And all these things are being orchestrated to make sure that Abure didn't participate, or that Labour Party fails to produce a candidate in Edo State. And to God be the glory, we are trying to weather these storms. We are going ahead. Everything is perfected. Everything is with or without Abure. We are going ahead with our primaries tomorrow, and the best candidate will emerge from Labour Party, a candidate that we think that should salvage that state. So all this you are saying is orchestrated, trying to make sure that Labour Party does not fail a candidate that will succeed.
Well, Mr. Ifo, you say that Mr. Abure has no hand in the manhandling of Mr. Anselm, but you haven't quite fully answered Kadi's question about whether or not this round of arrests and allegations leveled against the chairman of the party, though disputed, you haven't answered it about whether they're related with past allegations of perjury and forgery for which he was investigated and there was a court action. Are they related in any way, Mr. Ifo?
No, I've just told you there are series and sequences of actions against Mr. Abure, against Labour Party. They come in torrents. If you are in Nigeria, you find out that it's 1 week, one trouble. They are all orchestrated. What Mr. Anselm is saying is quite different. He's on a plane. He's working on an agenda to make sure that Labour Party is put under. So Abure is the national chairman, is the primus inter pares in the party. So everybody believes that the moment you attack the national chairman, you have, subdued the party. So that is why there have been torrents of attack on Abure. But we know, because we've investigated on our own, we have every reason to believe that these things are being orchestrated to make sure that Labour Party does not have strength ahead of 2027. Immediately after the Supreme Court judgment on 2023, we came out boldly to say that we have facts, that a lot of people are coming up to vilify our leaders, to incarcerate our leaders, to make sure that they lose steam ahead of future elections. And these are part of it. I can tell you in the days to come, there will be more and more attacks on Labour Party and the person of Abure. But we are not subdued.
So, Mr. Ifo, if that is the case, if he's constantly in the eye of the storm, doesn't it speak to the fact that there's a moral burden on his leadership as chairman of the party, and as a result, perhaps he should step aside such that, all of this is cleared?
Well, if I get you right, Julius Abure has not even started his tenure. Let me explain. Julius Abure is only trying to complete a tenure of the late former national chairman, and he is going to stand on his own capacity as a candidate when our convention comes up very, very soon. So there is no need of asking a man who you have not found guilty of any offense to step aside. He's not stepping aside, he's moving on, and within the party, he has done very well. 2 days ago, all the state chairmen converged on Abuja to give him a vote of confidence.
Right.
Within the leadership of the party, we know that he has done very well and he's doing very well. And we are standing by him, and that is why even in this period of trial, we can see that all of us are standing by him. Nobody has spoken against his leadership. And that tells you of his capacity, his leadership style, his strength of leadership, his strength of character. It takes a man with will, a man with God to withstand all these attacks, and he's still standing. I can tell you that in the ranks and files of Labour Party, we think that Julius Abure has done well, and that is why we are standing by him. So for anyone to ask him to step aside, that is a no, 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 no.
Well, Mr. Ifo,
it is
very interesting times, but just by way of yes or no, the police talked about illegal possession of firearms. Can you confirm that? Oh dear. So we're going to get Mr. Ifo back to respond to some of the questions, of course, that we have on this situation. As we progress, but it's important to set the record straight because the Labour Party has enjoyed a lot of support really across board from a lot of Nigerians, both old and young. And this is a bit befuddling, really, the recent development that we've had. So, Mr. Ifo, my question to you was about the illegal possession of firearms. Can you confirm that?
He had no firearms. He has no reason to carry firearms. He had security around him, 7, including the DSS and police, all carrying arms. Why would he also go ahead and carry arms? It was part of...
Okay, Mr. Ifo, just as we wind down now, so we don't lose you again, it looks like Mr. Abure is losing support, particularly from the obedience. In fact, a lot of people thought Mr. Peter Obi would say something about this, but we didn't hear, and that's quite unusual because Mr. Abure is the leader of the party. The police now describing him as factional leader, but particularly about the support from obedience. Have you seen that? Are you aware that the obedience are now saying, well, we're not supporting Julius Abure anymore?
I am sure you heard from a little fraction of the obedience. A little fraction. Most obedience are in support of Abure. And let me, thank God you used the word of what police said, that Labour Party has become, Abure is a fractional or factional chairman. Now, there is no court that has said that Abure is not the authentic chairman. Why would police arrogate themselves the power to call an authentic national chairman a factional chairman? It tells you there is something fishy. It tells you that is a script written. Police has no right. In the eyes of the law, Abure is not there. There is only one national chairman of Labour Party, which is Barrister Julius Abure. For police to call him a factional chairman it's something, I don't even want to use any word. But as in the support base of Labour Party and obedience, Abure still occupies the very height of support within the rank. Of course, there's no way you expect everyone to give you support, even if you are whatever thing you are doing right. Some people must dissent. But let me let you know that in the party politics, in Labour Party politics, Abure still commands the highest respect from the members and obedient family. And this will be proved very, very soon. I'm sure you are aware that our national leader has said that he's going to bring up an external audit to vet the account, the audit the account of the party. When the result comes out, I am sure you will be among the persons that begin to sing Hosanna for this party, because everything that you are seeing is clear. All those people that are alleging have no proof.
Well, Mr. Ifo, I only sing Hosanna to God and not to political parties, just to put that on record, Babukola.
Well, Mr. Ifo, the litmus test for the legitimacy of his leadership perhaps would be, during the forthcoming governorship election in Edo State, and we know that your primaries are around the corner. I believe you can confirm that. But again, I'll follow up on Kayode's question. Where is Mr. Peter Obi, where is he in all of this? Is he in support of the leadership of Mr. Julius Abure?
Mr. Peter Obi is 100% in support of the leadership of Mr. Julius Abure.
But why hasn't he spoken then?
Only last night he spoke with the party leaders, asking us to be strong in this era of trial. You understand? At the right time, he will come out openly and speak. But remember that a few days ago, about 3 days ago, he actually spoke about the crisis in the Labour Party.
Okay.
And in the primaries that we are doing, has urged all of us to come out en masse and make sure that the Labour Party does the right thing by bringing out the best
Mr. Ifo,
and elected candidates.
Pardon me, so we have to wind down now, but just to confirm, you say Mr. Abure is in his hotel. Is he going back to the police to maybe appear for interrogation or what have you? Just confirm that to us quickly.
No, he's on bail. Certainly, whenever he's needed, he will make himself available. And he has done that already, even in Abuja, where he stays. He has regularly visited the police whenever he's asked to come. He's a lawyer, he knows his right. And he knows whatever thing that is committed is bailable and nobody can keep him beyond regulated time.
All right. Mr. Abure, for confirming to us now that Mr. Julius Abure is now in his hotel room. He's been released on bail.
Julius Abure has been bailed in his hotel room. I am with him.
All right.
He's not very far away.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Abure, for that update. Of course, we'll be following and touching base with you from time to time for updates. We'll be speaking with Mr. Abure, National Publicity Secretary of the Labour Party, on that trending arrest of Labour Party chairman. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Ifo.
Thank you.
We'll go to break now, and when we return, we'll turn our attention to another burning issue. This one is of national importance, concerns you and I, the fuel situation. What exactly is going on? Well, that's in a moment. Stay with us.
Welcome back. It's now time to talk about that all-important conversation that Kayode and Bukola have been highlighting on, which has to do with the resurgence of fuel or queues in our fuel station. What exactly is going on? We already have a lot to deal with as a country, and this is added to the list of things we now have to deal with. Some of us had that experience yesterday. We're being joined on the program by Dr. Gillis Harry, is the National President of Petrol Product Retail Outlets Association. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much.
I think the natural place to ask, because we saw that NATO had actually come to say, we will go on strike. And then they had a conversation with the federal government. And then they shelved their strike. So we didn't expect queues. So what happened in between?
Well, I think the queues have been building up for a while. And I recall questions being asked around that to some of my zonal chairmen. And of course, we take time to try to get empirical evidence to answer our questions, because these are of national importance, and we want to be as much as possible correct with some empirical value and evidence. There's not in doubt that queues have, have spiraled in different parts of the country. It simply speaks to the fact that we're having a problem with supply. We need to up our game to get petroleum product delivered so that the stations can be wet and the commuters and everybody else that needs to do their business depending on this source of energy should be able to work. So simply speaking is there's a supply challenge.
And I'm wondering what could be causing supply challenge at this time?
Well, it could be one of so many factors. For instance, you know that there is nobody importing prime motor spirit today. It's only the NNPC that is importing it. And we are not producing in country. Our refineries have not started rolling out any kind of refined hydrocarbon at this time. So if NNPC has some issues, which is possible, as I'm not working on NNPC, so I cannot speak for them, but I will assume, that if there are challenges in getting refined products in, then it will affect the supply chain. And I think that's just what has happened. And I'm sure also, because I am in touch with the top echelon of the retail section of NNPC, I'm sure they are working round the clock to make sure that petroleum products are delivered. Just only a few days ago, 2 vessels have arrived at Port Harcourt, and they are frantically making sure that loadings are effectively and efficiently carried out. So that, I think, by and large, will also, assuage some of these challenges that are coming. But the reality is that we do not get PMS as at when due.
Well, listening to the national president of NATO yesterday on our sister program, he had quite a lot to say. Perhaps that is what had contributed to the supply challenge that you've talked about. He said that their members had begun parking even before they implemented, they didn't implement the strike, by the way, but even before that time, they had begun parking, and, they were protesting what they were owed, perhaps from the time of subsidy up until now, and then they were protesting freight. I'd like you to speak to all of this, particularly despite the assurance that they gave that when they resume work, they're supposed to have resumed immediately, prices would not go up. But we've seen, for instance, my colleague spoke about price adjustment in some filling stations. Maybe you provide some clarifications there, how much they're being owed, what was the nature of the adjustment, and why prices are going up.
Well, it's been a long story, because even our sister organization, the Independent Petroleum Marketers, have been complaining about that. They've written a series of letters, to my knowledge, to the authorities to try to meet up with some outstanding payments, for the then bridging claims that was subsumed into the current NMDPRA. So NATO coming to make that complaint. I was also on channel on the very day when all the series of meetings were holding to look at what exactly the challenges are. Everything that is pertaining to a truck maintenance today has gone extraordinarily high. And we all know the reason is because the dollar
is not available, and it's all the time, the naira is losing, to the dollar, which we hope must stop at some time, as we have some of the things that we're thinking that should happen. The cost of diesel also that's being used to run these trucks have also gone up. So it was very clear, that the NATO leadership was barely containing a burning, very, very serious burning national issue that was going to erupt anyway sometime. So I'm very, very appreciative of the maturity and the concern, that the national president of NATO displayed in putting everybody on notice that, look, we're having this challenge and we're going to stop work because most of my members are already parking their trucks and the trucks are not working. So that is a real issue that we need to discuss. Now, if there were solutions that were proffered in the last 40 years, so to say, because we were having assembly plants for steer, for different, heavy trucks in Nigeria. And for some reason, we had all sorts of projections that was coming from World Bank, from IMF, and from different organizations, and which I don't agree in any way, because, we have our country to run. And we cannot be dependent on anybody else sitting down somewhere doing armchair analysis of how our economy should run. They put us through structural adjustment, and we failed and failed and failed. Today, our dollar, which in my time, leaving school in 1977, to go to school in Northrop University, I was paying 72 kobo or so thereabout for $1, and we go to the post office to buy, not even from the bank. You just go to the post office and buy money order, and then you pay your school fees. So we need to get back to the drawing board and know what has gone wrong. So as far as NATO is concerned, I think they've exercised quite a lot of maturity. And of course, the meetings that the president has gone, I have the opportunity to chat with him and to know exactly what's going on and what's happening. And I'm very happy that immediately after the meeting, the proposed strike was called off, and those who are parking their trucks already by the roadside were already getting set to go to the depots to take products to come. So I congratulate.
But very quickly, has their debt been cleared? What they're owed? Has it been cleared?
Well, their debts, to my knowledge, there was a figure that was agreed, that is likely going to be made available to offset some of all those debts, that are claimed. Of course, debts cannot be cleared just by a wave of the hand. There's going to be some documentation, there will be processes and different things. If the NATO leadership was selfish, then they would not have allowed their trucks to go to work. But in spite of the challenge, immediately after the meeting, they announced that, look, don't go on any strike. Just manage the process. Let's go through the process and get these payments over to you. Now, will it even be enough? 50 billion naira, would that be enough to service all the debts that are going to put the trucks working? That remains to be seen. But again, I want to congratulate the NATO leadership for being very matured. And that's what I personally had spoken to them, that regardless of what we're doing, our segment is our sector is very, very critical to the growth of the economy. Everybody is crying, food is difficult, living standards have really gone, people are getting angry for nothing today. So if there is something we can do by sacrificial service, we should be able to do, and I think that's what the leadership of NATO has done.
Essentially reading the room, acknowledging the fact that things are really tough. There was a red flag which you raised earlier on about NNPC being the only importer. Yes. It ought not to be, because they're not the only ones licensed to import at this point. We saw some movement around that last year, but it looks like with the Forex situation, it's now back to the NNPCL. Am I correct?
Exactly. So no other company can easily make imports without availability of dollars. I mean, for instance, Petron is just coming back from a journey to discuss with several refineries on how we can even, contribute, to some relief, for the pressure. What are we trying to do? We don't have dollars. We don't. Central bank is not giving. We've applied to central bank several times, even in the previous government, and we were not getting the kind of answers that we needed. So we've been talking to refinery owners and show them the economic values of even having Nigerian naira, to pay for what they import, because they'll be making profit in the Nigerian naira, and they can keep their Nigerian naira here and invest massively in agriculture in different areas. And so we are also doing some kind of economic diplomacy to talk to refinery owners who can work with us, because we are many. We have, in our membership today, I have over 19,000 retail outlets as members.
So the goal is to do this in naira, because
yes, that's the goal.
Obviously, that's
the goal, and that's really what we're doing.
Right.
So we hope that the government will also come to support us at some point when we have some green light from some of these refinery owners. And right now we have like about 4 offers that are, looking at doing what we are trying to get them to do. Right. Because we believe that if they can invest in cash crops to export, okay, the Nigerian naira will be here, paying for those costs, pay for land, pay for labor, pay for different kinds of things. And then, of course, when export is made, they will get their dollar back, and then they recycle again. Brilliant. So we can be able to. So but we are thinking, we are not just only complaining. We are thinking, and we are trying to also proffer solutions.
But while all of that is happening behind the scenes, the average Nigerian is not privy to that. All they want to do is approach a filling station and buy petrol. I'd like you to speak to that Nigerian who is probably stranded right now. The fuel gauge is on empty. There is no petrol in the generating set, and they're on the queue. It even looks like the petrol station is not planning to sell. And we know what happens. Once it's like maybe 30%, they stop selling because they're trying to keep their stock for, the rainy day, as it were. What would you tell them? How soon will this be over? What can they do? Is there a filling station that they can approach and be sure to get petrol? I'd like you to speak to the Nigerians going through this.
Well, at first, I don't agree with you that when our stocks get to 30%, we don't want to sell.
So what percentage?
We want to sell. No, look.
Do you sell everything?
We sell everything.
I beg to differ, Dr.
Sorry, let me. I run filling stations myself, so I'm not just a national president. I have retail outlets that I'm selling, and daily we are working on even a technology services, technology that can help us to monitor ourselves from anywhere we are, to be able to make sure that our staffs are doing the right thing and they are not taking advantage. Most of us are now warming up to technology to be able to get that done. So we know per time what we're having in our retail outlets. So nobody is going to keep 30%. Or even 10% will be a tough call, because you have product in your retail outlet, you don't know what the next policy will be. So why don't you sell it? And for us in Petron, our focus is just efficiency in hydrocarbon delivery. When I'm talking about refined hydrocarbon that we're carrying. So I don't agree with you, and I'm being honest to you. And not that I'm going to take 100% of my members on my back and say, oh, I can beat a drum for them. But I can tell you that we are very strict within ourselves. We try to self-regulate. We try to make sure that we get the NMDPRO, the security agencies, to work with us for anybody who is having any infraction on making sure that our simple rules are obeyed. Now, let me answer directly to talk to you. There's a problem. For instance, in my house here in Lekki, where I stay, electricity has been very epileptic. So, of course, we're going to either try to convert our generators to CNG or depend on looking for how to get diesel to run. It was a tough call. Even at my height, we had to probably call like almost 12 or 13, filling stations before something was kept just for me. And what was that? Just only 200 liters. And how many hours would that burn? if we're going to be able to live our life as comfortable as we want to live. So it is a situation that nobody is removed from it. Because I'm a retail outlet owner does not mean that I have product all the time. And the other retail outlets that have the same challenge will have, sometimes the owners don't have even fuel in their own car because they didn't have fuel that is stored in their vehicle, in their tanks for their own use. We used to do that. I mean, in Port Harcourt, for instance, in my station, when we sell up to about 5%, the stock, we just keep it. One, we don't want our pumps, to go out of gas, so that when there is a new stock, we don't start, find it difficult to be able to get the product out. And that 5%, maybe sometimes we'll be able to help. I'll have friends, I'll have leaders in society that say, oh, Billy has a filling station somewhere, please go there and do that. And I used to do that for several years for so many people. Now, it's very important for you to know that that culture has not changed. So if there are products somewhere, we are not going to hoard them. Any station that have the Petron logo is a certified member of Petron and will follow the simple rules that were brought. And in the last 4 years, we have successfully done that to make sure that we contribute to the stability of the energy security, energy infrastructure that is being built. And we're doing quite a lot, that's off the camera, to see what answers and solutions we can bring. I've just told you just a few about helping to make sure that we bring in products that we can pay in Nigerian naira. So it's innovative, and we are getting responses to that. This ordinary Nigerian whose gas is zero, I want to encourage you, don't be scared, don't panic, find alternative ways to get to work and be productive. This situation is not going to be forever. Everybody's hand on deck. I mean, Major Energies, Meman is really working hard. Dapman is also working very hard. Petron is working hard. And I also know that IPMAN, that's our closest sister organization, is also working hard to find solutions to all of this. So we are not just leaving it only to NNPC or the government to see what they can do. So I want to encourage Nigerians, please don't panic. Don't buy products from where you see it and then go and store it in your house. It's volatile. It can be very destructive. So just let's calm down and give the situation the best. Listen, I'm speaking from my point of view, my advantage point of view, that the situation will not be too long, before it's assuaged.
I think the concern for Nigerians, which is what I have seen happen over and over, yes. And you raised it in passing, that people just get angry over nothing. And I can tell you why. Because when authorities come out to make these statements, sometimes there is no timeline. People want to have a timeline. For instance, the government is saying the economy is going to get better. I understand all the variables of economics to a large extent, but sometimes people want to posit it in time so that they will know how long that distance can be, whether they can bear. So perhaps what Parity is asking is, since you're in the know, are we going to see this for another 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month? Because this conversation, you are the expert. This is not the first time we're experiencing this. So you have an idea of how this will end. So maybe a direct question, how soon is soon? That's the first question.
How soon is soon enough? Because like I said, just only a few days ago, we received 2 cargoes in Port Harcourt. And as you know, Port Harcourt cargoes in Port Harcourt have a way of spiraling back to the north and the System 2E, which is about 12 states. 2 cargoes is not enough, but that 2 cargoes have already arrived and been discharged. I know that as of today, there is quite a frantic effort by NNPC to make sure that trucks are loaded right now as I'm speaking to you. So as early as 5 o'clock, I was able to touch base with at least the chairman of River State, the zonal chairman, and I'm being briefed, that the situation is going to get better. even for gas, because we try as much as we can to also follow through with our members who are having gas stations, gas retail outlets also. For the soon, I think that if we can get 2 cargoes today, at least in the last 3, 4, 5 days, we've got 2 cargoes. The NATO strike was almost, going to be a disruption. I'm very happy. That's why I congratulate Nigerians, congratulate the government, the DSS, the police, NNPC, the president, NMDPRO, everybody that has put in their best to make sure that that strike is averted. Because they could have just said, oh, well, it's a conversation. And it's not, and it's serious, because people are already, getting set to make sure that they're not going to run into trouble. Of course, nobody is going to run business at a loss, consistently or continually. So what I want to encourage Nigerians is that if we have gotten some cargo coming from Port Harcourt, I'm sure soon Lagos will come, Calabar will come, Ogara will come, and there will be some real, retail outlets that are going to be wet. So there's no need to panic. That is what I'm preaching now. That no need to panic. And there's no need also to be angry. Yes, we know that things are difficult. Things are difficult. There is no doubt about that. Anybody who is trying to paint it differently is being unpatriotic even to Nigeria.
I want to thank you. We're totally out of time. We're totally out of time. Well, I see what you're doing, not trying to give us a specific time, but we want to be hopeful from what you said. Thank you so much for your insight. You're in the know, so we'll take your words for it. And so hopefully in a few days, these queues or weeks will be out of the places where we see them. National President, Petroleum Product Retail Outlet Owners of Nigeria, Petron, Dr. Billy Gillis-Harris. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, we'll switch gears now to another part of the conversation. This time, we will zoom in on, of course, part of the economy as well. But we'll do that after this break. Join us again.
So many things happening, so many things that Nigerians have to contend with at this point in time, from rising cost of commodities to the free fall of the naira and to petrol scarcity. One thing that is the common thread, for members of the government at this point in time is to appeal for patience. In fact, in addition to that, there is also that call for recommendations, to assist the government, and that's why we're continuing this conversation to look at how government can rein in on the free fall of the naira and, check the rising cost of commodities. And to, weigh in on this, let's welcome Mr. Ike Umogbe, Dr. Samuel Ike Umogbe. He's the President, International Association for Strategy Professionals, IASP, Nigeria, certified expert as well in microfinance, Frankfurt School of Finance and Management. Mr. Ike Umogbe, thank you so much for coming on the morning brief this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So as we start off this conversation, let's look at a number of interventions that government has put in place in the last few weeks, from the president's instruction that food be released, grains be released from the strategic grains reserve, to the even most recent call yesterday that there should be a resumption of distribution of 25,000 naira to homes that are challenged. Why are these measures not yielding quick gains?
Okay, thank you so much once again. So if I may go straight to the question, the reason is not far-fetched. It's because the government is being reactive to what is happening. So if the government were strategic, have a blueprint of what is happening, which is the current situation, and have a plan in terms of the vision in the next 4 years, have a mission for the next 4 years, have a goals, maybe per year, knows about the core values and the policies of the country. You know, from the vision, the citizens will be able to know what do we look forward to from every action that comes up. But when you are reacting, you bring in palliative, you serve food per country, and there is no monitoring due to lack of implementation plan. You see things working haphazardly. So for me, I will advise that urgently there should be a call for the State of the Union, where the government should be able to read out the blueprint for all stakeholders, especially stakeholders who have sworn allegiance to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and promising prosperity. And if you look at one slogan for this current administration, that is renewed hope. For instance, renewed hope when? Renewed hope in food scarcity, renewed hope in hunger, renewed hope in insecurity. Now, renewed hope is a very good slogan, but it should be backed by a strategic roadmap and serious-minded people who will advise the administration on what is happening to the common man. And there should be, like I said, a roadmap where everything happening will be able to be viewed, just like you view your CCTV when you are inside and you can see who is coming into the shop, who is going out from the shop, and all that. So we really need a think tank. I know there is a think tank team, definitely, but to what extent are they pragmatic? To what extent are they political orientated? So these are two different things. We have military strategy, for instance. We have the corporate strategy, for instance. These are different strategies. So if you want to bring in the military strategies to address the corporate strategies, you may just be missing it. So there should be a proper fitting, and then this country will begin to experience its true value. Road to success is not an easy task. It's not a best of time, especially when we have some policies to stop paying subsidies, coupled with insecurity, but they are interlinked. They are interlinked. The insecurity probably is as a result of the hardship, because a kidnapper in Abuja and a kidnapper in Benin City, for instance, they are not relatives. They don't know themselves. A kidnapper in Abuja may kidnap a Benin kidnapper if he knows he has money. But what is the common denominator is the fact that they are both hungry. They all need money. And that is what is happening in the country currently. Thank you.
So I know you've done a bit of diagnostics. So let's begin to see solutions, because since all of this started, there's been a lot of talk about what is going wrong and what is going wrong. And Nigerians are getting really worried and tired. I know you mentioned something in passing. So let's look at all the elements now. Let's look at from the fiscal authority, I mean the government, before we talk about the monetary authority. People are looking for both short-term, mid-term and long-term solution, but the one that is urgent so that people it doesn't result to social unrest. What is urgent that has to be done right now from the fiscal authority, in addition to some of the things you said, practically implementable?
Okay, thank you for that. I think practically, and I use the word pragmatically, is communication. You know, Kotter, in his 8th model for change, called for urgency as number 1. So anything you're going to be saying or doing, it has to be urgent. And then it talks about let the people know about the vision. Let the people know what you want to do for them. And don't make it too ceremonious. Don't make it a January speech. Don't make it an Easter speech. Don't make it an October 1st speech. Make it a speech we see every day. Let people begin to see the hope through the local government, through the post office, through the police station. Police station not for arrest, but to pick up what truly belongs to them. In the churches, government should begin to identify clusters, the traditional rulers. Every cluster should be identified. Bring together these clusters. Let's have a common goal that the people are hungry. For instance, the churches, the mosque, like I said, the police station, the post office. Let people go out of their conventional activities and attack this abnormal situation of national epidemic of hunger and insecurity, and it should be urgent. Let people begin to feel that the government is responsible, just to, like you said, so that people will not take laws into their hands. The foods are available, but they are expensive. What if people begin to run into the market to carry food by themselves? What if people begin to attack the people who are selling food because they are hungry? We will not get there, but we should not plan to get there by deliberate actions that we put in place. It is normal, just like the father in the house going to sleep without locking doors and believing that the wife will do it or the neighbor will do it. He may just be robbed by not doing it himself. So the government should take responsibility and also identify stakeholders that will implement this responsibility through the NEPA office, through the post office, like I said, through the police stations. And people will appreciate that police are coming to their houses to supervise sharing of food rather than coming to arrest them. There will be a change, and there will be a belief system back to the country. Maybe from there, it has to be a continuous effort, because where we are now is even worse than the pandemic in 2020. You know, this is just coming because of what the policies, and because the policies were linear. You know, you just said one policy, not looking at the other side of the ripple effect. It can cause a chaos. It can cause a demonstration. You know, like in 2012 when there was first a subsidy removal, right, that just resulted from 65 to 140. We had Occupy Nigeria. Now people cannot even eat to occupy Nigeria. But if the people resolve to come out in their anger, like they say, an angry man, a hungry man is an angry man, we cannot predict a calculated demonstration in Nigeria. You know, I use the word calculated because, like, the NSAS was just, some people may see it from an emotional perspective, some may see it at a pragmatic perspective, but when a hunger drives a man to the street, it may just be a serious one.
You've raised some very important issues. Communication being top on that list, and I think we've said it time and again that the governments need to open up as much as possible. Let people know. I mean, there are still questions about whether or not subsidy is being paid. Well, the people know the answer, but they've not gotten any official confirmation from a government. So there's distrust in that area. And I can go on and on about how, you know, government needs to come out with the right information. But then government can be a bit tricky, because when we say government, attention is on the federal. Rightly so, by the way. The federal wields the most powers, and that's understandable. So there needs to be pressure. But I'd like us to also break it down, because I see you're a microfinance expert. So let's talk about micro-governance as well. How should we begin to break this down? Communicate, yes, but from local, state, and the rest, how should the communication be? Oh dear. I imagine you lost some part of my question, but essentially I'm talking about communication, breaking it down to the, local, state, and the rest. How should that communication be carried on by the other tiers of government, or levels rather?
Okay, thank you. I get that now. Okay, you see, like the politicians who say politics is local. That's when you want to bring local perspective to solution. You see, politics is local. And then when we want to register, everybody is encouraged to go to their villages and the rest. So when the solution comes in, we should also use that framework. We have traditional rulers, we have street owners or rulers, we have landlords, we have GOs, we have DPOs in the police, in the security area. So these are the institutions that we respect. We have women, market leaders. These are institutions we respect. Now, the only problem that government will have in using these leaders is trust. But when we get to a situation that is this serious, the government needs to call everybody home and say, let's be truthful to ourselves. We are in a situation that needs an urgent attention. So be responsible to your streets, be responsible to your local government, be responsible to your church. The church leaders, for instance, the mosque, for instance, you can't be talking things that happen in the 18th DC. And meanwhile, people in 2024, in February, have not eaten and they are not fasting. It's not pragmatic. So everybody should begin to say what is happening to the current situation. If it's to talk about the 5,000 feeding by loaves and bread, it works, maybe that should be what they should be talking about. Or if that doesn't work, give them living food. So, like I said, the normal ADC, PHCN that will come to your estate to cut your light or to request, those same people can also be used to bring food to people because they know the houses they go to collect bill from. Let's use the existing structure. The post office, the police, to distribute food and give reports, and there should be supervision. Because what is not supervised is not achieved. There should be supervision to the grassroots level. And that's communication. Communication is, you say, you do, you come around, it's pragmatic, people begin to, from there, we also need to talk about the social interaction, like in the village, during Christmas, during other program, house to house, they share food, they distribute things, they give things to the widows, they give it to the orphanage and all. At this point in time, there are so many people that are displaced, that are not rather orphans, they are not rather widow, but they are hungry. So people should be encouraged to that bag of rice in their house to distribute. Let love lead in Nigeria. But government should be involved. When I say government, I don't mean the president. I mean somebody need to lead. Somebody need to lead the whole thing. We have an approach we call the lead, the think, the plan, and the act. So in the leading sector, government would need to put the structure in place in terms of who leads and who doesn't lead. In the thinking, is when those sectors begin to think who needs it most, who is urgent, and in the plan is when to say the timeline. Who will do it? When will they do it? What are the expectations that when they do it, what are the expectations, like the KPIs? And then, who monitors that this thing is actionable and is working? That is the act. That is back to government again. So it's not just 2024. It's not just, people have been complaining even before now. There was a statistic, there was a report done by the Prime Times in 2022, and just 8% of people shown to be happy with some of the policies of the last administration. Now, if they should go back in 2024, as at today, in February, to carry out that survey, how many people are happy with the current policies, like the removal of fuel subsidy? That is, like I said, that is linear. It's linear in the sense that it's looking at one side. The other side of why the policy was made is not pragmatic. What is pragmatic is what people can see, like there is queue, for instance. There is queue, there is hunger, there is insecurity. All the four blocks
all right, Doc,
are affecting the man.
Dr. Sam, as we begin to wind down now, in a few words, Kade talked about micro-governance. And in respect to that, many have asked, why should Nigerians further down south have to wait every time for food to come from the north? And we know from reports that the subnationals are getting increased allocation as a result of the removal of fuel subsidy. So what should we be expecting from the subnationals in terms of agriculture and in fact other areas, security, as we look forward to more accountability in the expenditure of funds coming to them from FAC allocation?
Okay. Like you mentioned the fact that why should we be looking up for the north? Yeah, we cannot totally eliminate the fact that that is like the star, if you want to use the PCG model to look at it. We have the star, we have the cash cow, we have the question mark, we have the problem child. Yeah, some states may just have a bad land, and in terms of agriculture, they may not be able to contribute as much as the other states. And that's why we have a country. Everybody cannot be producing or be at the same par. And that's why we also have what we call the core competencies. So we should identify, which we already know, the different states and their core competencies, and support them in their own comparative advantages now. And then everybody bring in their contribution to the center. So the center, it doesn't mean National Assembly. I mean distribution from the north to the south, from the south to the north, and vice versa. And we should support them. And then if there is any other innovation that we can bring in to the other states in terms of agriculture, maybe it's necessary, or if it's not necessary, let everybody face their own core competencies in their state, but everybody should be accountable and make sure there's no waste, and everybody is optimizing their natural resources, their human resources, their material resources. We have a vast land in this country, in all our countries, in all over the country, I mean. So some could support the cereal, some could support the livestock, if you also want to look at the agriculture distribution and everything. But we should just be serious. That's what I mean. We should just be, it shouldn't be, when you say president or Nigeria, you should be thinking of APC or PDP. No, it's a country. That's why he started by saying the State of the Union.
True.
The State of the Union
Dr.
is
Samuel.
to say this is where we are.
These are indeed difficult times, and they test the creative capacity of government, and that's why they're elected in the first place. So we hope that some of the practical recommendations that have come out from this conversation will be considered and looked into. Dr. Samuel Aikumogbe, President, International Association for Strategy Professionals, IASP Nigeria. Thank you so much for coming on the Morning Brief on Channels Television. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, we'll switch gears now. What is all of this without a satirical, or if you like, comic relief to so much of the challenges that we're going through? We're going to be looking at it from a unique perspective, someone who's recorded successes in her career as she has depicted socioeconomic issues using images, animation. So stay with us for this conversation. You don't want to miss it. We'll be right back.
A lot of us grew up on comic books, always reading them, staying up at night with that torch, going through comic books, hiding it when your parents come in. And, it's always cheery to meet the people who make kind of amazing art, tell the stories, they immerse you into it. And this morning, we're doing just that on the show this morning. We're joined by Barbara Brandon-Croft.
Yes.
She's an American cartoonist. It's the first time in Nigeria.
First time in Nigeria. I love it. I love
Nigeria.
it. Yeah.
Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And just right next to her is Julie McKay, Public Affairs Officer at the U.S. Consulate. Good morning, ma'am. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
I've looked forward to this conversation, really. I stayed up at night looking at your work, some of which we showed our audience just before we came up. And you're not just good at this. I know your father, you probably got this from your father.
I believe so.
Genetically, and watching him doing this. You've done this for newspapers. You have a strip. I think you're the first black woman to have your strip syndicated.
In the mainstream.
In mainstream.
Right.
In the United States.
Exactly.
And, that's amazing just hearing that. So talk to us about the work you do. Some of us enjoy it. We can't do it as well. So when we meet people like you, it's always like, wow, how do you do this? So just walk us through the amazing work you do, how it started, and how you envision those characters, bring them to life, and tell the story.
Yeah, well, my dad was a cartoonist, and he was one of the pioneer black cartoonists in America. He also crossed the color line, 30 years before me, and so I had it it's ingrained. I was immersed in cartoon art, watching him work constantly. It seemed like a natural progression that I would become a cartoonist. I didn't think that was going to be the case, but it ended up being the case. I was asked to come up with a comic strip for a black woman's magazine, actually. And I came up with this idea. I was like, I think I'm going to have black women talk, just heads talking. I wanted them to be speaking to the reader, a really direct, intimate conversation. And so I came up with this idea, and they liked it. So then it turns out that the magazine folded. So the story is that my dad got a letter from a mainstream newspaper, Detroit Free Press, and they said, we want to have our paper reflect our community, our readership. And it's a black city, Detroit. And did he know of any black cartoonists? Well,
obviously.
Well, he did. I was like, so he put it to me. Are you going to talk about it, or you're going to do it? And I was like, challenge, yes, I'll take it. And I sent the very same strips that I created for this magazine. I sent it to Detroit, and they liked it. There was some hesitation. Not every editor thought it was going to work. Yeah. There was like, how are we going to sell this? How are we going to have just women? How are we going to just have black women? How are we going to have no environment? You know, everything that I wanted to do, they were worried. But the managing editor, the one who liked it the most, put me on. So that was my first advocate. She was like, I think we should do this. And it took hold, you know. I ended up getting a syndication, which is what I needed. I couldn't live off of one paper. You know, $75 a week. It's not good. But so, you know, I got a syndication. I got rejected by many of them, except for the one. And then next thing you know, the paper started growing and growing. So that's how I did it.
That story is just beautiful to hear, really inspiring. And I'll come to Julie, really. We'll still get into the nitty-gritties, but hearing her, I know this is Black History Month, but earlier on we said every day is for Black excellence. So this may be Black History Month, but every day is for Black excellence. And she essentially embodies that, really, shattering those glass ceilings, doing the impossible and really rocking at it. And I see, you know, partnerships here that can be birthed. She's in Nigeria for a number of reasons, not just to share an inspiring story, but also share that gift that she has and share a lot of that. So talk to us about, you know, the partnerships that can be birthed from this, why she's in Nigeria, and what this hopes to achieve.
Yes, thank you so much. We have invited her here. She's here for a week. It's part of kind of our ongoing engagement and support for the media and journalists here in Nigeria. It's part of a 3-day workshop for editorial cartooning that's included 25 emerging and established editorial cartoonists, people just starting their careers, and then legends of Nigerian editorial cartooning. And like you said, partnerships it's all about that. It's her bringing her experience from the U.S. and then sharing it with Nigerian editorial cartoonists and then learning from them as well and taking that back to the U.S. It really is sharing both of those things. And it's really part of some of the trainings and opportunities that we're providing for journalists. The U.S. mission is doing that through the embassy and the consulate. So we do things like training on media ethics, fact-checking. Recently we did artificial intelligence and how journalists can use that. Also, we don't just do trainings and things here in Nigeria, but there are opportunities for media professionals to go to the U.S. on some of our programs and do the Foreign Press Center does reporting tours, media co-ops, the International Visitors Leadership Program. This is just one of those partnerships and ways we try to support and build capacity of the media here in Nigeria. But we're so glad to have her.
Absolutely.
And the interaction and partnership that's already happened has been amazing.
And that's cool, because Nigerians are big on cartoons, whether it's the mainstream media or it's the online media. You know, the comic relief that comes from that is always very welcome, particularly at this point in time. I'd like to speak to some of the themes, Barbara. I studied I looked at some of your works, and you're talking about racial tension, you're talking about gun laws in America. And, you know, when I look at what's happening back home, the themes are not really very different, even though they come in different manifestations. So when you study Nigeria, particularly with, you know, the potential of what you're doing, do you get that sense as well that, you know, our challenges are not very different after all?
Absolutely. This was eye-opening to come here and to speak to such brilliant cartoonists. There were like 25 cartoonists that were there, editorial cartoonists, who it's their, you know, we feel it's our job to lift the voice of the underheard, you know, and point a finger at corruption. And, you know, it's like our job, you know, to do that. And if we can do it in a way that is more palatable for people, which is usually with cartoons, that helps. But that's what we kept coming across, is that what they were talking about, what I was talking about, was pretty much the same thing. You know, it's the same, you know, it's the same issues coming up again and again, and never leaving. You know, like some of these cartoonists that I met, and I met, you know, I have new friends now. I mean, I have a new family of cartoonist friends, that they were doing it from the 60s, you know, every decade, same things, same issues that you have to keep talking about, which is exactly my experience in America. Yeah.
So walk us through some of your creative process. So you pick an issue, for instance.
Yeah.
Let's simulate it, a racial issue. We heard of the issue of George Floyd and all of that incident and all of that. In creating your expression, what are you thinking that you interpret and say, I'm sure when I do this, it will resonate with the community I'm trying to reach?
You know, when things happen, here's how I do it. It's something that hits me personally. You know, I feel something in my gut. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to talk about this. There's something that needs to be spoken on, amplified. You know, we need to, and I know that if I'm really feeling that strongly about it, there are other people who are, and a good number of other people. You know, I trust that, you know, that what concerns me concerns at least, I mean, it concerns a lot of people. You know, there's some people who will be like, who cares? But, you know, something like George Floyd, for instance, when that verdict came in, I worked on that immediately. You know, I was in my kitchen, I was like, I'm not even going to use any words, you know, I'm just going to have her hold her head. You know, she's scared of what the verdict is going to be. And then, you know, she thinks she hears something, she kind of looks through her finger. I was going to leave it at that. And my son said, you could, you know, probably take it a little further. So, you know, I work in my kitchen, so, you know, everybody has their input. But, you know, that's how I do it. And that's how I trust what's going on in my gut to be something that somebody else is going to be concerned about.
Julie, I know you want to comment here.
I do. I just want to highlight the long and rich history here in Nigeria and in the U.S. of cartooning. And even when the issues are controversial or the cartoons are, you know, we have freedom of expression, we have free speech, and it's in our Constitution. And I think that's one thing that the reason that we're doing this program is to highlight that freedom of expression and the way that cartoons, as you mentioned, they're satirical, they're funny, and they can raise these issues in a way that maybe an article may not be able to do. And it gets people talking about the issue and having important discourse, but it also can keep our leaders accountable. And so I think it's a unique way to do that, and we're so pleased that we can share that.
Absolutely. You know, I saw some of the cartoonists putting up videos and images from the training, and it looked like you guys had a good time. I wish I could sketch a bit. You know, I wish I could sketch. I'll be in that meeting. But it's quite interesting talking about your creative process. You work in your kitchen?
I do, because I live in a small house, and somehow I got squeezed out of my studio little area.
Right.
And now it's my husband's studio little area. So I set up my space in the kitchen.
But how tough is it to be a creative? You know, I don't know if it's something we talk about a lot. We make other people, is it happy? We make them laugh. We present the issues, but we have our own issues. I mean, we deal with a lot of things, really. But, you know, we're always expected to show up.
Yeah.
To have the very best dialogue, to have the very best sketches. And I just want to know how tough is it being a creative? Because I know a lot of creatives watching you, they're thinking, oh my God, I want to be like her. She has everything put together. She's done this for decades. She even looks beautiful again, man.
Oh my goodness. You know, it's kind of natural to be a creative, right? It's like it's your calling, it seems. And there were times when I was in a lot of papers and I was getting paid, you know? And this is something else that we talked about during this workshop, is that we're cartoonists, but we don't get paid that much, but we have to do it, you know? It's like in your gut. And you just have to, I don't get paid at all right now because I don't have a syndicate right now, but I still create because sometimes you just have to get it out, you know, and it could take, something else could happen, you know, like a pimple will come up and you're like, oh, that's because you're keeping everything inside, you have to, you know, but I'm just saying that you just know that you have to get it out.
Interesting. I'd like you to also speak to this as well. I know that the end game really for creatives, for art, is to mirror life, and for social reconstruction. Julie talked about accountability, but sometimes, it seems like things are not changing. So whether it's, those at the corridors of power, or even the man there who you're trying to speak to, do you get that sense that, okay, I'm going to speak with my work anyway, even if they're not changing? Or are there moments, when you get feedback from those who read your works and they talk about an impact and there's fulfillment for you?
I have two answers to that. and one is, I do get feedback. I have gotten feedback, and I've gotten positive feedback, and I've gotten primarily women writing me and saying, you're speaking what I know. Thank you for, telling my story. So that's absolutely true. But the idea of things happening over and over again, I think, I currently have a show with my dad. My dad and I are 30 years apart, obviously, but his strips and my strips covered a lot of the same, years apart, decades apart, a lot of the same topics. So there's an exhibit of our show of it's called Still Racism in America. Retrospective in cartoons. And what we did was show my dad's work, show my work. We don't say anything else but the year. And it's kind of stunning to know that things haven't changed that much. And I was worried that it was going to make people upset, or mad, or, and then I thought about it. I was like, the intent was to educate and make sure everybody knows. So knowing where the intention comes from, I think makes a difference, And I think it's gotten, it's the third time we're having this show, moved to different places. So I think it's an important thing to show.
And to keep the conversation going.
To keep the conversation going, even if nothing changes, right? Yeah.
I just want to throw in this. I know that in the line of work that everybody does, there are risks. Being a cartoonist, I'm sure you've done things that, like she mentioned, around controversy. How risky are they for you?
It's interesting. We talked, I'm talking to my new Nigerian friends that are cartoonists, and we talked about how it can be, how, you take the risk of being pulled from the magazine, or the newspaper, or, so you don't get that income. But, I've been on panels with other editorial cartoonists, like a couple in Central America who were exiled. They had to leave their countries. I've been very lucky. The worst I've gotten so far, there was I can't remember which city it was, but a city didn't want to run one of my cartoons because they felt it hit too close to home of their mayor. And luckily I had a syndicate that stood by me and said, okay, you don't have to run it, you have to pay for it, but you don't have to run it. And that's your responsibility to fill that space, because space in a newspaper is space in a newspaper. So I haven't gotten any kind of, I've never been scared. I probably should get increasingly scared because things change. Everything moves so fast now, and people can form groups, and everybody's after you. But I haven't been scared so far.
Here, Julie, and credit to you and the embassy, the mission, for making this happen. Hearing her speak and share her experience, I imagine would do a lot for young journalists, illustrators, even creatives as well. So I need to reiterate that credit to you.
Thank you. And I need to make sure that everyone knows that we didn't do it alone. That we did this in partnership with the Punch Media Foundation, as well as 21st Century Technologies, where we have our new American corner in Lekki that is open to anyone.
Being magnanimous, that's great. But speaking about government support, really, because we operate in context of government, and it's important to always have that in terms of freedom of information, freedom of speech, and all of that. How important is this? I know it always looks like the press is against the government from time to time, but how should governments really view the press cartoonists like her? Because their work is quite tricky. They use satire to pass information, and if you don't have a thick skin, you might just think, wait a minute, that isn't me. I don't look like that. Why are you sketching me in that manner? So how should governments approach this? Well,
this kind of cartooning, journalism, absolutely, it is vital in a democracy. Both Nigeria and the United States, large democracies. And I think, as I mentioned, I mean, journalists, cartoonists are bringing those important issues out. And I think support for that, creating the discussions, having citizens talk about really important issues, I mean, there couldn't really be anything more important. So, I mean, I think what you do, what journalists do, without it, I mean, governments aren't being held accountable, and all should be. And cartoonists can do that in a funny kind of way.
Quickly, if we could compare notes, the US, Nigeria. I mean, we always say we're different, but we share a lot in common. And each of these countries have their challenges. So maybe we should compare notes a bit. We have our challenges right here. The US also has its challenges. What's the common theme? You say, okay, we've gone through this. This is how we survived it, and we're forging ahead. If you could speak to Nigerians as well, like, you know what, you're going through this. This is how you can forge ahead.
So, I mean, I think all democracies have challenges. It's a work in progress. There's nothing that's perfect. We're both doing that. I mean, both are large. We have diverse countries, diverse citizenries, large economies. There's so much in common. We've been doing it a little bit longer than Nigeria, but we are still perfecting it. And so I would say we will keep working at it, and I hope Nigeria also keeps working at it. We totally support that.
Yeah, we look forward to that as well. Let's talk about the value of cultural exchange that is inherent in this partnership. You know, Julia's talked about the expected outcomes, you know, but what do you look forward to in terms of, you know, more partnerships, either in working with, you know, the American communities, with the Nigerian cartoonists, in terms of movie productions, in terms of animations, you know, what's the potential culturally?
I think it's limitless, right? I don't know exactly what the next steps will be, but I think it's limitless. I made a lot of connections. I plan to stay in touch with a lot of cartoonists. I, you know, spoke to one last night about how much he was also on the Teo, who was also on the workshop with me, and he's really pushing for something else to happen, to just keep this going. I think the energy that we kind of stirred up as we spoke and had our exchanges in the room made us feel energized to do some more. And I don't know what it's going to be, but I do think there's
I wonder if you've tried any of our meals. Have you tried
jollof?
I've tried a few things. You know what? I'm like the pickiest eater in the world.
Really?
And it's really embarrassing. And so it's been very spicy for me.
Yeah, spicy is the word I was expecting to come out.
Spicy. And but little by little, I'm finding.
Getting used to it.
I do.
I tell you.
Yeah, I was so proud to tell someone yesterday. I finished my plate. I ate the whole thing.
Which is your favorite now?
I did try that ball. I don't know.
Was it amala?
Yeah.
Was it white or black?
I tried the white one.
Right.
Yeah, I still have to try the other one.
You have to try the other one.
Yes,
so let me just give you a list. What you have to try.
Okay.
You have to try. If you've not tried amala, try amala.
Okay.
Okay. You try dika ikon.
Yeah.
And then Jeffrey's favorite, asun.
Asun.
It's really spicy.
Okay.
Like goat's meat.
So get ready for it.
I'll have my border nearby.
And I'm sure you get some help from Julia, right?
Yeah.
Well, of course, and Barbara forgot to mention something that I think is really important, and we talked about partnership and connection between our countries. She found out from her DNA research that she is...
I am 12% Nigerian.
12% Nigerian.
12% of my makeup ancestors are Nigerian, so I have come home.
Welcome home.
So which part of Nigeria?
Thank you.
North, south?
Well, the Ancestry.com didn't tell me that much.
Didn't tell you that, right? So we'll work on giving you a name, maybe.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll try Bukola.
I like that.
That's her name. Come on, she gave you her name.
What an honor. What an honor.
I'll take it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But ladies, we have to thank you so much. We're having so much fun at this. Julie, Barbara, an honor having you on the show.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're having a little bit of fun. Too much fun on that one. But I have to thank you for joining us on the show this morning. Of course, keep the conversation ongoing. I'm Kayode Okikele.
Indeed. Be good. God bless Nigeria. Thank you so much for watching. We will be back again tomorrow. I am Bukola Koka.
And I'm Jeffrey Uzama. Bye.